Everyone thinks the Alvarez AD30 is the perfect beginner dreadnought that you can grab, strum, and fall in love with on day one. But here's the thing, you shouldn't buy it yet because the truth is it only shines if you know exactly what you're getting into. Stop scrolling. I tested the AD30 for 3 weeks across home practice, a coffeehouse set, and a studio A/B session, and I found real strengths and a few deal breakers depending on your hands, your setup expectations, and what you plan to play. Everyone hypes the solid spruce top and big Alvarez sound, but the out-of-box reality can be rougher than the marketing suggests. Before we dive into what I discovered, if you're already Alvarez curious and want the AD30 at the best price, I dropped the link below. But stick around because what I found could save you money, time, and hand pain. I wanted a couch-to-gig acoustic that wouldn't choke under hard strumming but still felt nimble for fingerstyle. My old laminate beater had the volume but no nuance, and 2 other budget acoustics I tried either buzzed out under a capo or felt cramped at the nut. The AD30 had the spec sheet I wanted. Solid spruce top, classic dreadnought body, forward-shifted scallop-style bracing, and Alvarez's bi-level bridge for better string break angle. On paper, it looked like the value king. In reality, I was skeptical. I've been burned by inconsistent factory setups before, and I worried the big body would overpower vocals and fatigue my left hand during longer sets. So I bought it, set my room to 47% humidity, and got to work. First test, unboxing, build, and setup. Out of the case, the guitar weighed in the mid-4-pound range and felt sturdy with a thin gloss finish. No gaping glue marks, binding was clean, and the fretboard edges were better than most in this price class. But action measured high, about 2.6 m on the low E and tilde 2.0 m on the high E at the 12th fret. Not unplayable, but enough to tire you out if you're new or doing long bar chords. Relief looked a touch generous. A quarter turn on the truss rod brought it closer to spec. Tuners felt fine, not buttery. Nut slots were a hair high on the D and G, which made first position chords stiffer than they should be. The good. No dead frets, and the neck stayed stable over the first week after humidity settled. But then I hit the first surprise: strumming and projection. With stock 1253 phosphor bronze strings, this dreadnought is loud. Measured 86-88 dB at 1 meter on a medium strum. Tons of headroom before the top compresses, and the mid-range bloom actually sits nicely under vocals. It's not a boomy mud machine like some cheap dreads. The solid spruce top gives a focused attack with a woody sustain that feels more expensive than the price. But then, dig in with a heavy pick and you can get a touch of sizzle in the high mids that needs EQ if you're recording. Think 2-3K HZ bite that can be great in a mix or harsh if you're solo. Fingerstyle and playability were next. The AD30 uses a wider nut than many entry-level acoustics, around 1.75 inches, with a comfortable C profile. For fingerstyle, that extra spacing is gold. Travis picking felt clean and string separation was surprisingly good for a dread. Harmonics at the 12th and 7th rang clear. But then, if you have smaller hands or prefer fast pop country leads, the combination of wide nut and dread body might feel chunky. After 40 minutes of bar-centric practice, my fretting hand noticed the effort more than on a Yamaha FG800 with its narrower nut. Choose your battles. Capo and intonation testing threw me a curve. Up to the 5th fret with a Kaiser and shub, intonation stayed acceptably tight. Above that, the slightly high nut slots and stock saddle compensated less predictably. Open E chord perfect. Capo 7 with a D shape, a few cents sharp on the B, and high E if you clamp too hard. Quick fix, lighter capo pressure and a setup to dial nut height. In the studio, I beat it with an FG800. The Alvarez won on warmth and strummed authority. The Yamaha edged it on brightness and precision for picked lines. Neither is wrong, it's style dependent. Durability and climate behavior were solid. Over 3 weeks at 45–50% RH, the top didn't sink or swell, and tuning stability was respectable after strings settled. The bi-level bridge keeps string angle healthy, and the synthetic bone-style nut and saddle transmit energy efficiently. But then there's the back and sides. They're laminated mahogany, which is normal at this price, but you feel it in the complexity of the low end. It's punchy and usable, not lush. If you're chasing overtones and blooming bass, you'll want to step up in the Alvarez line. Here's where it gets interesting. The most surprising discovery was how dramatically the AD30 transformed after a basic setup and string swap. I spent about 20 hours of playtime, did a quarter-turn truss tweak, had a tech take 0.5 off the saddle and finesse the nut slots and swapped to 1253 coated phosphor bronze. Boom. The guitar opened up, action dropped to a comfortable 2.2 bass and 1.7 treble at the 12th, and the mid-range smoothed out. Suddenly, it felt like a different instrument, one that punches way above its price when cared for. But that's the catch. If you expect perfection out of the box, you might be disappointed. Against expectations and alternatives. Versus the Yamaha FG800, the Alvarez AD30 is warmer and more vocal-friendly, with bigger strum headroom and better fingerstyle spacing. The Yamaha is snappier, a bit more precise up the neck, and has a narrower nut that many beginners prefer. Versus stepping up to an Alvarez AD60, the AD60's overall resonance and refinement are a clear bump. If you can find it used for a small premium, it's worth considering. Too good to be true? No, the AD30 is not a Martin killer. It's a value machine that rewards a setup and the right hands. Now that you know the AD30 can be a sleeper hit after a proper setup, grab it while prices are still in the budget sweet spot. I've got the best current deal linked in the description, and I'll keep it updated as stock and sales change so you don't overpay. Bottom line, you shouldn't buy the Alvarez AD30 if you want plug-and-play perfection, have very small hands, or hate the idea of a setup. Also skip it if you need onboard electronics out of the box. But if you want a solid top dreadnought with real volume, warm mids that support vocals and fingerstyle-friendly spacing, and you're willing to invest in a quick setup, this guitar can absolutely deliver. Beginners who value comfort might prefer a narrower nut alternative like the FG800. Singer-songwriters and fingerstyle learners will love the AD30's vibe once dialed in. Final thought. Don't buy the AD30 unless you're ready to let a simple setup unlock what this guitar is actually capable of.